are you doing?
Man. Actually, to tell you the truth, much better. As each day goes by, I think I see myself more as I'm really starting to overstand the having experiences for creation. I listen to creation, and it just takes care of me now.
You're on the right side. Right.
I feel like I get set up in a situation, and if I just silence everything around me, I'm just like, I don't actually know how to explain it, really, but it just kind of puts me in the right, makes my timing better. I don't know.
Yeah. I understand, overstand, and verstand. Verstand. That's the Jesuit word, verstand.
What I've been doing is I've been teaching myself or studying Japanese.
Yep.
And it's actually helping me with the coding because they pronounce every syllable. You know, when they, as in, Americans, we always just like blur everything together as one.
Yeah.
But it forces you to pronounce and look at every syllable. So that's helping me.
Silly Abel,
huh?
It's his world. He didn't die. He just hid and let the builder do the work. Cain, the builder. And now everybody honors Abel, the honorable so-and-so.
Yeah. I remember a few posts back, you were talking about how you're talking about Japan and how the geisha girls, the hair is in that held up to limit intuition, I believe you said. Yeah. I was in Japan probably in 2007. I went there for about 2 weeks on a college trip.
Yep.
Like a global learning trip. So I enjoyed the culture because it's just it's basically the exact opposite of Western culture, or at least American culture for me. Growing up in New York and then going over there, seeing how people actually care about where they live. Everything's neat, and then it's more about manners and politeness and less verbal. Like, for instance, they can go their whole lives, husband and wife, and never say "I love you" to each other, and they don't think about it like that. It's just more through, I guess actions speak louder than words over there.
Yeah. Well, when you live in an Asian society, they learned early that space was important. That much of it when you have those kinds of numbers, because their job was to become kernels of corn. They're a lot in the same place, as opposed to the future slave, which is peas in a pod.
Right.
A lot fewer, more task specific. They were given the book to follow instructions, and they do.
They do, actually.
The Japanese, of course, suffered 200 years of occupation where their entire social structure was reconstructed by the Jesuits.
Right, when they closed down for 200 years.
Yeah.
Yep. And reopened
to the Americans, who basically were, I think, the only ones, with the exception of the Dutch, who were allowed to land in Japan when they opened. So
and that was to create Piggie, huh?
Yeah. They didn't know what the reason was, but
Now is Piggie a word that you assigned to it, or is that what they?
Well, it fits, and I think Miss Piggy, the cartoon character,
the Muppet, right?
Yeah, but before her there was Porky Pig,
right?
Kind of sort of dimwit.
Mm-hmm. Stuttering.
Yeah. And I just thought it fit. You know.
Because I was asking because driving around here we see a lot of police officers, and then yesterday I was on the road, and I see how I was kind of going a little over the speed limit, and I see one of them, and I was thinking how much people have to change when they're around. So it's almost like, and people call them pigs too, you know.
Yeah.
Call cops pigs. So I was like, oh, it's just that fits too. Like, you know, what you would normally be doing, you have to stop and let, you know, basically their presence dictates.
Well, it's basically a word for controllers or for the unseen force, because the two other places where you use it is you're allowed to spend money as long as you put some in your piggy bank. and you go to school, but Piggy rides on your back. You have to put your bag, your knowledge, close to your neck.
Wow.
Oh.
And you ride the little B to school, right? The yellow and black bus.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the big B.
They're telling you every step of the way, you know, that you're not exactly what you think you are. You're just their guinea pig.
I was watching this movie. It came out. I know it's based on an older comic called The Watchmen.
Yep.
And I swear people must be. They make a lot of money off you. I'm watching this movie and it's very blatant. One scene they had there's two men. One was positioned a little higher than the other, and there was Mason was written twice, but the guy on top, all you could see was Ma, because his shoulders blocked Son, and the guy on the bottom, all you could see was Son. So it was like Ma, Son. And then so I was like, okay, that's pretty obvious. And then all their other allegory they're doing, but and then genetic engineering, and at the end you find out that the guy who was in charge of all the genetic engineering is based out of Antarctica, and he's based off of a pharaoh. So there's all that in there. They had all the pharaoh's bodies in there, glass pyramids everywhere.
When I was doing the site, there were at least 3 different companies that I trace back to being writers in Hollywood that would come to the site almost every day, read what I posted, and then movies like conspiracy theory, that kind of stuff would pop up.
Yeah, the guy with the paper, right?
Yeah, the guy with don't buy a paper from him because you'll go on a short list and get blown up.
Oh, man. Oh, and in Watchmen, before I forget, they showed a scene where basically it was in a city, and they were showing an awning, and I guess the font for that store was in Desdemona, and they actually had the mirrored words. They had they had the R mirrored.
Yeah.
So at that moment, I was saying, wow, that means basically every step of the way of our lives, everything is mirrored, and that's what I'm understanding. Why they have to. I understand the significance of Desdemona now, because it's basically everything you think, it's the exact opposite. So they need the backward font because they're reading it that way. You know, like it's.
Yeah. And you know, languages in the Middle East are read backwards from us. So. Right. And they're printed on the wrong side of the page. When somebody's reading, he's got the book backwards. You know.
Right. That's like in Japan, you have to start from the. And I always read books that way too. I always if I get a magazine, I always start at the end. I don't read books the way. Say like a magazine or something, I'll look at it from the end and then go to the front.
That's okay if you're doing a quiz. Go read the answers first. No, don't waste your time.
Right, I've done that too. You can't put the answers in the book and not expect me just to copy them. Yeah.
Well, no, it's once you catch on, you know, as long as you have the premise, you know the road you're going down, you'll see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Because they tell you, first of all, that at the end times, the signs will be all around. So expect to find them. They're there.
Yes, yep. They are definitely there. It's kind of, and when you put it the way of the surface is the laboratory, it's kind of it makes me question. I mean, I've always questioned, but after listening to you, studying your stuff, I mean, even, I don't know, like, I kind of just put a stop to everything that, I guess I focus, I don't want to sound like not egotistical, but I guess that's the wrong word, but I'm just more, I don't want to fall into the programming again, you know. Because I even noticed when, for instance, if say you want to ask someone for advice, what you're really doing, since they're a computer, is you're just asking a computer to spit out a program to help you go through that experience, right? Yeah. If you're not necessarily living it yourself, you're just asking someone else for a program to download with, right? Yeah. So everyone's just computers.
Their life experiences are a book. And talking to different people is like reading different books. And it's the totality of their experiences that makes them who they are. And they're not responsible for it till they're 40. At 40, the book is really written, and it's up to them to start making decisions about, are they going to believe this shit?
Right.
Are they going to spend the rest of their life pretending it's not there? And but the choice is theirs. Depending on which choice they make, they're choosing their eternity. If they knew that, maybe they wouldn't make some of the choices they make.
Right. And that's what you're saying about how basically you'll go through an experience until you get it right. So creation will keep finding different ways to show you the same experience. Yep. It's like rewording a question on a test or something, you know, until you get it right, you know. And then once you get it, you move on. So I noticed that too, like with certain people, like for instance, I play the shamisen, you know, the Japanese. Actually, I think you wrote about it. The geishas play it, that like Japanese guitar, right? Yeah. And I started playing it maybe about a year ago, and I knew nothing about it, and all the sites that I would go to research on are all in Japanese, so I couldn't read anything. But I somehow met this guy. He's actually Chinese. He lives in Brooklyn, and he was probably started it a year before me. So he just basically downloaded me with all types of information about it. Like I probably know more on the subject, on the instrument, than a lot of Japanese people do. Yeah. And but then now, after I've pretty much got everything, I don't even see this kid anymore. I don't know what happened. We just stopped talking probably about like 3 months ago, and that's it. Like,
well, he was sent in your direction so that you would get what you need, and when you got it, there's no sense repeating it. Just move on. I used to get dragged around by people from one place to another. One guy in particular was in high school with me, and we went to college together in Toronto. We were both from the Ottawa region and went to Toronto. And I could never understand what it was about him that I was supposed to learn. In school, he was always number one, and I was always number two. And never even stopped to think about his name. His name was Arnold Van Essen. And all of a sudden, in the last few years, it struck me. He was an Essene. And his job was to take me and try to get me to follow his advice, follow what the Essenes were doing. And the Essenes are basically people who work their way in to become insiders in different situations. That's where the ESS comes from. Princess, Duchess, that kind of stuff. So he basically led me through experiences that I would never have thought about. He was Unitarian, his religion, and I kept asking him, what's Unitarian? He'd never tell me. And what else was there about him? He was Dutch, of course, and the Dutch basically are the pilots of this whole operation in the West. They raise tulips,
right?
Pilot backwards.
Yep.
So Deutsche, the German division that they sent out there in the swampland, and they basically put up dams and let the water flow back out and close the door on it. And started growing flowers, but that became their method of defense. If you attack them, they open the gates and flood you and them together.
They moat you, huh?
Except they forgot that one day some people would come with airplanes and get around the moat that way. But they didn't claim to be the smartest people in the world. They just took you there first.
Right, yeah.
That's where I learned that number 2 is really number 1. Number 1 is cosmetic.
Yep. Yeah, most people never look beyond that. So,
in the world of business, the president of a company is the cosmetic leader of the company. The real leader of the company is the CFO, the guy, the chief financial officer, because he has contact with the money boys.
Right.
And unless you have money, you can't be in business. So the two of them basically go together. But in the background, there's always the decision makers for the system. So in the coding structure, they would define it as A, B, C, C, between two C's.
Two C's, yeah.
The two C's, in this case, would be religion, who control from the bigger point of view, looking down upon you, and marriage, which is an insider looking up on you. So they get you from both sides. And arranged marriages, of course, are the preferred method. Now you don't know when it's being arranged.
Yeah.
It's just basically a woman that appears to be just right, who goes out of her way to do the right things. That I remember my first wife loving football. Because I used to follow football when I was young. She never mentioned the word football after April the 4th, 1964, which was the day we got married.
Yeah,
So I kind of have the feeling that maybe she was playing a role in order to...
Yeah. Gotcha.
24 years later, we divorced. I had to finally break the bond before somebody would say, we've set up a 25th anniversary dinner for you guys. And I could just not imagine myself giving a talk at a dinner on the 25th wedding anniversary, when in fact, for all intents and purposes, we had been married for 4 years and lived together for another 20 because of the circumstances of 4 children running around the place. You know.
So you're saying basically you were really together relationship-wise for 4 years, and after that,
yeah. I honestly believe that a male-female relationship close up, whether it's living together or married, lasts 4 years.
Yeah.
And after 4 years, you know each other enough that you really don't want any more of each other.
Yes. The case in point is, basically what I'm going through right now. My son's going to turn 3.
Yeah.
So, but I've been with her. I've probably known her on and off for 6 years, but recently it's been nothing. I guess the way I put it to people is that I love her, but I'm not in love with her.
Yeah. It's not her fault, and it's not your fault. It's the way it is.
Yeah.
People who are seekers find, and then the repetition becomes boring.
Right. That's like with me. Whenever I'm into a new area of study, that's all I'm into for that time period until I catch up.
Yeah.
I have to know I want to know everything or, whatever it is. Like I said with the shamisen, I got in there for about a year, and I pretty much learned the basis for it.
Yeah.
And even when I go play, I perform in New York City with a group, and everyone's looking at me like, you're not Japanese, how can you play this thing? You can't even talk to everybody, and you're sitting there, you play it, and you make it sound better than us.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know how to, it's more that I'm not just so technical with it. Everyone's so technical, and they have to be so, I learned how to do it, but it's also a feeling,
Yeah. Yeah.
So even with all this stuff, that's why I can
in you rather than the mechanisms.
Right.
Anybody can draw. Not anybody can become an artist.
Right.
That conceptual part is much more important than the actual work.
Right. I tell them I play colors. I don't play notes. It's like a paintbrush.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I'm not into. Mistakes are good. That's the only thing I don't like about. I do 2 styles of shamisen. The one it's for kabuki theater, right?
Yeah.
And that's really formal. So there's no mistakes. There's no improvisation. Everything is memorized. You can't even have a smile on your face when you play. It's just for the dancers it's descriptive music. Where the other style I play is more like a folk style. So it's actually created from the blind. Blind in Japan usually become musicians. So these guys would go around and they would play in this rapid style to get people to come to their door to hand them rice or hand them money or something. So they go door to door just playing outside. So the technique is really to grab people's attention, this other style. So that's more improvisational. So I like that one a little better. But anyway, it's just, I don't need, music is international. Huh?
It's their classic.
Right.
You follow the rules in a classic. It's between 2 C's. And it has Lassie in the middle, and Lassie's the bitch that goes to fetch.
That's what I feel like when I'm there.
When Lassie and Rin Tin Tin had puppies, you knew right away that one was the Scottish version, the other one was the German Shepherd.
Right.
They were both female dogs who, in fact, fetched for their master. And their master basically sat there and waited for the dogs to bring it back. You ever run an Apple computer?
Mm-hmm.
When you turn it on, there's a little dog that goes to fetch. That's the symbolism of it all. Gula, which is another way of saying Glen. Gula is the female sitting in a chair and doesn't move, but sends her dog out to get whatever it is she wants. Gula wants, Gula gets. But see, it's mirrored. It's a female sitting in the chair, and it's a male dog running after things, when in fact it's a male sitting in the chair and a bitch.
The male
Australians pronounce it beach. On the beach.
So now what you just said there, now would that be the male on the inside sitting in the chair?
Yeah. Because the male is in the back. You got to think of it as lads and ladders. The ladder folds. When you open it up, the structure that supports it is in the back. That's male. The structure on which you climb is female. Got steps on it.
Right.
Like a golf course, you go from hole to hole. And as you work up towards the neck, just before you get to the neck, you've got this little shelf that assists you along the way. Holds your paint or whatever.
Right. Yep.
You know? And that's Piggie on the back that folds in and out. But the original Piggie needed to call home. He needed to actually get you to do the dialing or turn on the radio station. Any of that had to be done manually, but in fact the program is to create a real cellular phone, and you're it. And it's Piggie that's online all the time. And what you hear, he hears, they hear. With nobody having to type a keyboard or speak the words, everything will at one time be communicated. And of course, if he's talking to anybody, they believe they're looking at a female. But there ain't no female there except in appearance.
Is that what the chip is for? Or are you saying it's already in?
We're now in the transition stage.
Right.
And
the transhumanist.
It's going to be all, and it's not a chip in the sense of something made out of plastic. It's a real piece of meat, a cellular phone made from cells.
Now, couldn't they, like for instance, with nanotechnology, couldn't they even have you breathe that in and it could actually just go right to the spot where it has to be in?
Well, your senses are attached to it because of its location. Everything has to go through there. It's like Nebraska. All telephone calls east and west across the Rocky Mountains have to go through Nebraska. So they're there to pick up the signals on everything that happens, whether it's smell, feel, sight, hearing, whatever. Then in communications, in the world of spies, what happens to things that are picked up is they're fed through an analyzing type of machine that picks out keywords,
Right.
Sends it to a reader analyst. The reader analyst is the first human that touches it and reads it, and that person makes a decision on whose desk this should go to. That's all.
Right. Okay.
And it ends up either being, FBI or CIA or communications defense establishment, any one of the 16 different organizations that keep track of us in the U.S. We have equivalents here in Canada.
Yeah, just like this phone call, right?
Yeah, there is no such thing as privacy. The only people you can keep out are those you don't even need to worry about. Right. Everybody that you should worry about is, in fact, the ones that are in charge of what you're doing all the time. So the telephone company, Norton sends out viruses on your computer.
Yeah.
All of these.
That's why they can find them, right?
Yeah. The police are the worst thieves. Politicians aren't there to save you money, but to make money for themselves.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's the system.
That's the system. So don't worry about spies. Educate them.
Yeah. Yep. With the time we have, right?
Yeah. They're the ones who need it most.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because they're the only ones that can actually have any influence.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we believe that there is a single source that can have real influence. And it comes down to we're it. The people that can have influence outside of us only have one thing to offer: mutual destruction. Now, that's better than single destruction, I guess, but it's not helpful to the cause.
Right.
And if ever there will be change to come about, it will have to be by 13 different brains working as one to come up with answers that make sense to a person who is control-oriented because it has little sense of self-worth. Until you assist them in getting back a sense of self-worth, you're going to be communicating over their heads.
Yeah.
So that's the critical mass's job, is to make sure that Piggie understands that we know basically how the decision-making process turned it into a control freak. And it's not all their fault. Partly our fault. Because as men, we allowed them to use us to do their dirty work. It's partly women's fault because they didn't recognize the value of the assistance they were getting and didn't give it proper recognition. So all three of us have to take some share of the blame for this. And only when we say we accept our responsibility as males in this triune picture, do we earn the right to suggest to other people that they too can make an effort to change, that it wasn't easy for us to come to these conclusions, and how great it would be if all three worked together for the time left in this eternity. This universe isn't going to be around forever. There's about to be a cataclysmic event which none of us living on the surface can escape. Alder Amin moves in as a second son, and it brings with it heat equal to its luminosity. There will be no life on the surface of this planet.
Well, just to give you another example of your information in Hollywood, there's a movie that just came out called Knowing. Basically about a guy finds a code, but it's number code, and sees the world's going to end through the code. And basically, in the last 50 years, he found it basically with like 5 days to go or something like that. But he said the code showed from the past 50 years every basically event that took place, and it said like the number dead, and the date was next to it. So on that date, this many died. This date, that many died. So at the end, they find out that basically the world's going to end by solar flare. So what happens is there's like 2 children, a boy and a girl, that they can hear the whisperers, right? And there's like these, they made them look like alien people, but they took them to another planet basically to repopulate this other planet, and then the rest of the people just burned in the solar flare. The sun spit out a solar flare and just wiped out the whole planet, except for the 2 children who went, but all through the coding, you know. So that, now that you said that, before I didn't totally understand. I thought it was just another allegory for being wiped out, everyone on the surface. But now you're saying that, now it makes sense with solar flare.
It's exactly what's going to happen. and we know all.
Nicolas Cage is the actor. Nicolas Cage. So.
Well, he's certainly, I think most of the people who would be part of Scientology would be in on it. At least they accept to play a role. Whether they know the whole story or not, I don't know. But I at first used to believe, hey, there's no way this solar system can survive. No solar system ever did, so there's no difference here. Why is that? Because a sun is basically committing suicide. It's burning itself out of existence. And as it gets smaller and smaller, the right distance from the sun changes. Right. So at one stage in the past, Mars, now Earth, in the future, Venus. Okay. That's a normal progression. So I used to believe, well, maybe a couple of million years from now, we'll all have to kind of hopscotch over to Venus, and that's the important part. But now that I grasp the concept of Alder Amin, causing, first of all, to drag our orbit around the sun into an egg shape rather than circular shape around the sun. We're now egg-shaped. We've been egg-shaped before. Something comes by that drags us in that direction, but has no heat generation of its own. We get cold and we get an ice age. There is more ice in the wintertime. The summers are shorter, and ice stays and builds up. But if the thing that's coming by is hot, we get global warming, and that's what we're living through now. It's working its way by, and it's going to be here at one stage to replace Polaris as the polar star. And once that begins to happen, then the conditions on this planet will be unlivable. And therefore, the only place of security would be the Moho discontinuity, and I don't think we're invited yet.
It's RSVP, I think.
Yeah. So for us, there is no choice. For the Moho people, there is a choice.
Mm.
They are used to living out ice ages underground, so living out a hot age ain't much different, even if they have to stay below for 16,000 years or so.
Yeah, there's no difference there. Yeah, just in the movie, The Knowing, they said at one point over there saying, "Oh, wow, it's only safe if you go into the caves. You have to go underground." You know?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there chuckling because I'm watching a different movie than everybody else, you know. So.
Yeah. Underground ain't going to be there the way it is today because the ground will melt in a nova.
Right. Yeah.
Mountains become deserts, deserts become lumps and whatever. In the end, it all looks like quicksand.
Wow. That's the thing, and that's why just knowing that, you know, as I said, after talking to you, like, I don't give up an F about, like, anything. I mean, as far as...
Yeah. Don't waste your life living.
Like, oh, you want me to do this? And like, why? I know. I'm doing exactly what I want to do right now. Because all this stuff is really... If all this stuff is really going to... Hopefully we can stop it, but if it is going to, like... It's basically like finding out you have cancer or something. It's like, why wait to the end? You know,
if you're going to die, at least know what it's all about. And if you can do something about it by knowing, then do something about it.
Oh, yes, definitely.
But don't put your head in the sand and wait for the kick in the ass.
See, I have, you know, like I said, my soon-to-be 3-year-old, so I don't have time to mess around and let stuff happen. I have to be active, and now at least I know which direction to be active in. Yeah. You know, so like getting up to you and trying to do something up there is definitely
well, hopefully over the summer we'll meet people like you and we'll be able to decide, do we have 13 people of like mind who care more about the bigger picture than instant gratification?
Mm.
And if we do, what are the next steps?
Now, would everyone have to be there at the same time, or you just have to meet?
No. I think.
Or 12, right?
Yeah. If there were 3 at a time, that would be best as far as transmitting information to, and finding out about the people that are here. 12, it's a group of people, and you don't get much time to grasp the person themselves.
Yeah.
So,
plus, there'd be a lot of stuff.
And I'm not the one who's making the choice. I'm the one who's bringing the people so creation can make a choice. Somehow, creation at the end will decide, because it's the one that's basically giving us a last chance. I think creation wants to assemble 13 people who care. And that's what we're going to try and do. And
the most basic, right? Caring.
Yeah. And it's not any one thing that makes the person right. It's the way they fit together to make the 13. As a group, do they become better than as individuals?
Right.
And can they help in communicating to the people who are basically the biggest control freaks ever, and speak to them in a way that will communicate in a way they will overstand, not brush off. So it'll be interesting to see. I believe that we also have an ace in the hole. Should we discover the plate that has the other half of the information that Methuselah and Enoch got, that I believe now is with the Mormons, we will open the eyes to a lot of people on the planet who are creating the problem we live with every day on behalf of the system. And if nothing else, maybe they'll stop doing what they're doing.
Right. Now that you say that, because I was thinking about, it wouldn't necessarily matter if Joe Blow found out that you have that there, because they wouldn't understand. So it would, say it just comes up, and then the media could just do whatever they want to give everyone their opinion on it. But it would be the ones that are the insiders that it would make a difference to. So. Yeah.
You could put a big basket of dollar coins on the front lawn, and 99% of the people of the planet would go for the coins rather than the knowledge.
Yeah. Yep. The dollar. Yeah. Now,
so we'll try.
Yeah. Now, another thing I was thinking about, because you're talking about Methuselah, right? Now, would the time machine be, not necessarily the movie, but just in general, the time machine be an allegory for something like that? Because maybe you're not, or reincarnation, because you're traveling through time, but they're always the same body. So maybe it's like, so it's not necessarily actually living as the same person.
There are two things with genetic engineering. One is a clone. You're reproducing what died. Mm-hmm. You're cloning it. The other more important thing is recombined DNA. You're breaking down the genome into its basic component parts, 125 to 145,000 instructions, separating them in each their own container, and then you start assembling a task-specific person to be reborn to handle a specific job. And that's what they do now. That's the Hillary Clintons and Bill Clintons of the world. That's Carla Bruni. And, of course, our example of the best mind is as close to a Neanderthaler as we can get in Hawking. You see him in his chair.
Right.
Totally unable to take care of anything.
Or speak. You just use that box.
Yeah.
The voice box.
Yeah. So all you're getting is the content of his brain as the product that comes out.
So is this because, for instance, an animal like a cheetah has the stealth and the speed. Now, the equivalent to the mind or the intellect of Neanderthal, they just can't give them, like where they lack other mobility or something, they have to, like, why would they be created if there's just a mind and they can't do anything else? Like, they're just...
Well, it may not have been at the beginning. See, I believe that the clan mother and the Neanderthaler were born of the same lineage. I don't know if it's the same parent, you can call it that, but same evolutionary pattern. And they started off being the same, but the same under different social engineering followed. The Neanderthaler obviously got raised in a place that didn't need any or much motion. The linkage is to manatee, to sea cow, to water-based floating around in a marsh environment. That's where they were built after they were genetically engineered. And that over time has an influence on things. Whereas I believe that Clan Mother, unlike Tarzan, raised in the trees and whose mother was a monkey taking care of him, a cheetah or whatever you call them. No, I think that was the monkey's name, cheetah. The actual parenting was cats, whether they were cheetahs, lions, tigers, whatever. The Clan Mother's social engineering is the closest thing to cats, especially in the time when they were hermaphrodites before the coming of another gender. The fact that women like to hug and snuggle and be close, you don't see at any stage in men, but you see it in other women. And if you do what I do and raise cats to study them, it becomes obvious that there is two different lives being lived by cats. They have a need to run outside to get implanted by a tomcat. But that's a miserable experience for them. They scream and shout and go through a lot of pain. And as soon as they can, they run back to the harem. They come to the house, and it's all females hanging around together. And they take care of each other, and they hug each other, and they lick each other, and clean each other, and sleep one on top of each other, and that's women. They don't admit to it today. They have the problem of dealing with the artificial stuff sent out called lesbianism,
right?
Created at in the islands of Greece, there at Lesbos.
Yeah.
So when you have to decide where did we come from, I would be the one saying, well, we were separated by a genetic engineer who learned how to break a leg on an X and turn it into a Y, and a second gender was born out of a formerly hermaphrodite female who now could give birth to two genders, individuals, indivisible individuals.
Now, how long did they carry the testy after that? Do you know?
I would suggest that it's a recessive gene type of thing.
Oh, okay.
It fades into the background. You got to remember that from a choice of 100 and some thousand instructions that are in the genome, a human being needs 25,000 in order to be a human being, of which he uses or she uses only 3%. And of the 3%, some are not even useful today. If you look at tonsils or other doodads you have in your stomach that basically cause you trouble.
Or an appendix or something like that.
Appendix, yeah. So in the end, what happens is all of the things you were given kind of fade into the background and only pop up if the male and female have the same thing and come together at the right moment in time and the right egg passes by type of thing. So I don't think they've ever lost it completely, but it's simply like a seed. It's not an active thing. It's like a seed. I got to switch phones here because this one is dying on me.
Oh, okay.
Turn this one on and that one off. Did I lose you?
No.
No. Okay. And it'll come back once the male is gone. That's the likely thing that will happen with wars and nuclear wars and then the cataclysmic events, so that females who would survive would be hermaphrodites again. But this time it's not needed. Recombined DNA means the bartender sits there in front of all the bottles and says, what I need is boom, 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 makes a, what do they call a cocktail? A special name for a mixture of stuff in cocktail. Anyways, he makes it up. Yeah. Stem cells are the key. From the stem cells they've collected over time, they have billions, if not trillions, of eggs in storage, in wax, beeswax, and in storage under 2 miles of ice in Greenland. Not green because it's green because it's of the future. So everything in the future is linked to green and peas. And iPod is basically the container that holds peas. You eat it too with snow peas. So they've been carrying eggs to Greenland for at least 7,000 years because there are traces 5,000 BC of them going there, and it's the big secret. Greenland, I don't know if you know the geology of Greenland, but it's a bowl. It's a bowl the size of say British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan put together, the 3 western provinces of Canada. So it's a big place.
Yeah.
The snow that's on the inside of the bowl will never melt. And that's because it's 2 miles thick. And if you know anything about cold storage on a farm, you dig a hole and you go out to the creek, you cut some ice, you bring it in during the winter, you put it in the hole, and you can get ice in August by cleaning off the hay and straw and dirt that's on top. You pick up ice and you bring it indoors. Well, that's because as anything melts the dirt on the surface, it just makes it a better insulator
Right. Yeah.
Try to imagine 2 miles of ice.
Yeah. No.
Surrounded by rock.
Not going anywhere.
Not going anywhere. It might melt, 100 feet or something.
Yeah, that's nothing.
That'll be the end of it.
It's a little chip.
Yeah. So if you go in to Greenland, one thing you'll notice that is awfully strange. The time zones that come down from the north are usually coming in a straight line across any island that happens to be in the way. Greenland has 2 bumps in the time zone.
Yeah, zigzags.
So it basically is done to put one part on one door, one entry place. That's why they call them the 2-door kings, the Tudors of England. There's an entry and an exit, and they're both entry and exits. When something happens in one place, you can go out the other, just like a lot of animals do.
Right.
Down at the bottom, not too far away from Thule Air Force Base that the U.S. has up there, and they've made that whole place a no-fly zone. I'm sure there's some contacts between a few people.
Yeah.
Baffin Island off on the Canadian side of the water is another place that I'm sure there are contacts. Hillary Clinton and Bill and a number of senior politicians in the U.S. have been known to take trips up into northern Ontario, northern Quebec, and never know exactly where they're going. I'm sure they've had sessions someplace. Labrador is telling you, the bra door.
Yeah.
There's a door to a bra.
Like LeBron James.
So all of these things tell me that the old rules of the game, cloning, are basically thrown out the window. Now it's recombined DNA. So you make what you want, a task-specific slate.
Made to order. Huh?
Made to order. And what they need is a good-looking Carla Bruni on the outside, a Michael Jordan on the inside.
But you also have to keep it kind of tame, because the giveaway would be the muscles, right? Because women can't get their muscles like men as easily,
But Jacques Rogue just announced this year that they expect the women to be equal to men in body types by the next 10 years.
Yuck. No thanks.
So it's a matter of styling all of this. They're not working on the principle anymore. That they've got down pat. There are men, women, and there are women, men walking around the streets today. But right now it's really on the cosmetics of it all, making it all fit together, but mostly working on the remote telephone system. They call it lettuce for short, because it's like lettuce in a hamburger. It just kind of covers everything up. The egg and the bacon are down below, and tomato is in charge on top, tomato, and then the lettuce is another way of saying, tell us, let us, tell us. That just happens to be the name of the telephone company from Texas, who basically comes from Aztecs.
Yeah.
And they now run the phone company in British Columbia and Alberta. So British Columbia...
And the names actually tell us.
Yeah, TELUS. TELUS. All one word.
Oh, so that'll confuse them right there. It's one word. So.
Yeah, and they're basically selling off all of their land structures. They've sold all the buildings in BC and leased them back because they need them still. But they're moving all the money over to the cellular phone division. And, it's basically the message that you need a cellular phone, but you don't want something you need to carry around. That's only for conversations between yourselves. As far as the system is concerned, that cellular phone must be the pons in the brain between the medulla and the two thalamuses. The pons must be online 24/7. And the pons is like a, what do you call those bridges that open and close?
Drawbridge?
Drawbridge, yeah. So that when you want to do something, you can be stopped from doing it by creating a distraction for a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
Imagine Tiger Woods trying to play golf with someone opening and closing his brain at the very moment his swing is on the way up or down.
Right.
And it throws it off just a fraction of a second.
That's it. Slice. Well, he's probably still seeing a hole in two, but yeah. I hear you.
So that's
what that is, right? Because like I say, when I play, say I'm in the park playing whatever instrument, shamisen or something. I'll get a point where if I start actually thinking about what I'm playing, and it just goes to shit.
Yeah, that's because they're in charge.
They're disruptive. Yeah, when I'm just not focused at all, like I could be staring at whatever. People walk by, I don't see them, then that's when I'm really playing. But as soon as I think for a second, it's gone. Yeah. So it's like
you're sending it. the signal to your hands are coming from your intuition when you're playing it. It's a feeling thing. Going straight through from your spine into your hands. Whereas the minute you move it to your brain, you got this mechanism that's trying to play along with you, but not necessarily willing your will.
Right. Yeah, because when that happens, it's you pretty much you go back to I call it like your foundation, like this. Yeah. Like usually you'll start off playing something that's like, for instance, you'll start playing a song that you practice, and then after you've done the song for like a minute, then you can start going into your improvisation. But you need like the basis, so it gets you back into that. Yeah.
It's like stopping what you're doing, going outside, sitting down, and taking a deep breath of fresh air. You're kind of doing the opposite to what a person in a cave would be doing.
Right.
You're confusing them.
So growing my hair down will actually help me play then, you're saying? Huh?
I would believe that over time you'll notice that everything that is linked to your automatic reaction to things will be improved. And you'll get answers when you need them rather than a week later.
Right.
I'm still working at about a day's delay.
Or you can get it right before you go to sleep or something. It'll start clicking.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
When I get up in the morning, I have no idea what I'm going to write about. And when I go to bed at night, I don't remember what I wrote about. It's just what was appropriate at that time.
Right. And you just, yeah. So, are you, for some of the details, are you like reading an encyclopedia and copying like that, or is that just all in your head?
Most of it is now in my head, but for the things I write, I go back and check out encyclopedias.
Cool.
Or I'll go to the enemy and read their material, which is called news, and say, what are they trying to cover up here?
Yeah.
And it becomes obvious to me what they're trying to cover up, and I'll rewrite their piece as if I was them, but telling the truth instead of the bullshit.
Right, sculpting. Now, with intuition, or with the hair, right? Now, many people might have their hair long, but if they don't know, say, like, what it's for, they might not. It's just like this.
I suggest that there are some people who live their entire lives on intuition.
Yeah.
And they know how to do certain things. They don't know why, but it has something to do with their background. And when they learned it, they had longer hair. And it's not necessarily to have it today, just the need to have had it at the appropriate moment in time. I feel I'm learning every day, so having long hair helps me to gather in the information and retain it.
So would you, for instance, ask, I guess it's just through pondering, right? It'll just come?
Yep.
Pondering.
Usually, if you're in nature and you're just smelling, looking, hearing, all of a sudden something comes to mind.
Yeah.
And I rush back to the house to make notes because I know that 5 minutes later I won't remember because I'll be down another path in my brain and won't remember the one I left. But when I look at the notes, then I know I have to write something on this particular topic.
I should send you a little voice recorder so you don't have to run back.
I used to do that, and it works for a while, but I gathered up so much material in it that I would waste a lot of time trying to find what I was looking for among the things that I recorded. So what I would need would be a secretary that follows me around. And as when I tell her something, she would write it down on a library card size thing and put it in an index, Or 2 or 3 different titles, and then
take a memo.
Yeah. But I suspect that's not in the cards.
I saw your Jared posted your videos on Google, the workshop.
I didn't post them. I gave them.
No, I know the story, Jared, when he bought your newspapers, right?
And what shocks me is not that he did it, because that's okay. I don't care what people do. What shocks me is the fact that Google come on. I would suggest that YouTube would have put them on and nobody would have cared. But nothing goes on Google without management's consent.
Yeah.
If it does happen to sneak in, it's not long before it's taken off.
I think they're still there.
And someone told me that it was put on, and then it was removed except for the third one.
Yeah.
And then put back on again when people complained. And my problem is Google's name is Regal, because L-E at the end can be R-E if left becomes right. So an L and an R are interchangeable. And there's a go right next to it, so that's re-go. And there's a go up front, go-re, so gore. Why would they put that on until I found out the real name of Calvary? Calvary's original name was Golgotha, which is the go-go, because there is no L. So what it means is that they've put me on, but they have another agenda than mine. Mm-hmm. It involves my crucifixion.
Yep.
So for whatever reason, they will pick and choose among the things I say, hope that those things I say they can bring up in a court of law, which is Google, and indict me.
Yeah.
A lot of people after it appeared call me and ask me questions, to which the answer might suggest to someone that I am pretending to be a lawyer or a doctor. Folic acid is one of the topics that I talked about.
Yep.
So if they can basically charge me with some criminal activity based on that kind of stuff,
God,
that would be their aim in life.
Oh man.
and I tell everybody in any conversation where the topics come up that I'm a non-lawyer. I'm looking at this whole thing as a businessman, looking back upon his life, not as a lawyer. And if I talk about folic acid creating a problem, I don't think anybody in their right mind could have an argument with that. And I'm not saying to anybody that what they say it does isn't true. I'm just saying that it's irrelevant what it does that is good in comparison to the bad it causes in the long run. So, yeah, it might save one in a couple of million kids from having spinal bifida, but it dumbs down all of the rest of the millions of people.
Yeah.
And which is worse? You know? Should we save a child for the purpose of saving that child at the expense of killing a million others for their entire lifetime?
I know, but they want to put fluoride in all the water and, and inject you with all types of whatever.
Yeah. I mean, all of those things.
You have to wear a white coat. That's what you have to do when next time you talk.
There's nothing wrong with any pill they sell. The problem is the dose and the combination.
Yeah.
And they can't control it after it's left their hands, and they know that if you have it in your pharmacy, you're going to think that if this pill is good for this particular thing, taking two must be twice as good.
And another thing, like I said, my research has been going. I have some Japanese friends too, and they said they can't take, for instance, an Advil from America. They said the dosage is way too high. They take really small dosages over there, and it works for them, you know.
We don't even sell Advil here in Canada.
Oh no. I went to
the drugstore once, and I said, I can't see your Advil. And the guy said, well, go out the front door, take a left, go about 2 miles. You'll be on the highway. Drive 45 miles to the St. Lawrence. Cross the bridge.
Wow.
Go to the drugstore, because that's where they sell them. So you guys are being given much bigger doses than we get in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a headache the other night. My friend gave me this, like this Chinese, I guess it was mixed with herbs and has a little bit of like aspirin in it, just a little bit. And it worked within maybe 15 minutes. And I've never had it. It wasn't in pill form. It's like this little powder you put in your mouth.
Yeah.
And it's really small dosage, and it worked fine. So we were told to take 2. Usually about, I think 500 or 600 milligrams of whatever the acetaminophen or whatever it is.
I got to go feed the animals before supper, Dana.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome to call again.
Yes. I got my calling card now, so I'm back in action.
Okay.
So all right, have a good one, or a good many until we talk again.
Sure will.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.